My daughter laughed and declared, "My mother-in-law achieved everything on her own, unlike you." I replied, "Then I'll stop covering your expenses. Let her help you now." My daughter fell silent and asked, "What expenses?" I was sitting in my usual chair, the one with the slightly worn cushion that Emma never bothered to replace, gripping my water glass with trembling hands. The table was set with that white china I had given her as a wedding gift 15 years ago. The scent of garlic and tomatoes drifted from the kitchen, but my stomach was clenched shut. What I felt wasn't hunger. It was a tightness, an anxiety that started in my chest and climbed up my throat. Emma sat across from me with that corner-of-the-mouth smirk I knew so well, the same expression she wore as a child when she thought she'd won an argument. Beside her, Marcus, my son-in-law, stared at his plate as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world. My grandchildren, Tyler and Sophie, were absorbed in their phones, oblivious to the tension hanging in the air. That's when she said, "Mom, you need to understand something." Emma crossed her arms, tilting her head in that way I already knew meant trouble was coming. Victoria built everything herself. She raised a company from nothing, traveled the world, raised Marcus with dignity. It's not like you, who always depended on my father, and then, well, just survived. Just survived. Those two words echoed inside me like a scream in a deep well. I felt my face burn. My eyes stung, but I wasn't going to cry. Not in front of her, not now, after everything. I took a deep breath, counted to 3, and when I spoke, my voice came out calm, icy, the voice of someone who had just awakened after years of sleeping. "I understand." I placed the napkin on the table slowly, as if each movement were calculated. "Since Victoria is so incredible and built everything herself, she can help you from now on." Emma frowned. "What do you mean, Mom?" "I'm going to stop paying your bills." The words came out firm, one after another, like stones falling into still water. "The kids' school, the car financing, the health insurance, the gym, the condo fees, everything. Let Victoria help you now." The silence that took over that room was deafening. Marcus finally raised his head, eyes wide. Tyler dropped his phone. Sophie looked at me with that expression of someone who had just realized something very serious was happening. And Emma? Emma went pale. "Mom." She swallowed hard. "What bills? What bills?" That question was the last straw. My 43-year-old daughter, college-educated, married, mother of 2 teenagers, had no idea how many bills I paid for her. Had no idea of the weight I carried alone, month after month, while she praised her mother-in-law and diminished me in front of her own family. I stood up slowly, grabbed my purse, that brown leather one that had been with me for years, worn but resilient, just like me. I looked Emma in the eyes. There was no anger in my gaze. There was disappointment and something she couldn't yet recognize, determination. "You'll find out," my voice came out low, but each word weighed like lead. "You can ask your bank, or better yet, ask Victoria." I left that house without looking back. My steps echoed in the hallway, firm, determined. When I closed the elevator door, I still heard Emma's voice calling, "Mom, wait." I waited. Not this time. Because that night, while driving back to my house, the house I had built myself, brick by brick, sweat by sweat, I understood one thing. Invisibility is not the same as weakness. And when someone invisible decides to make herself seen, the whole world trembles. I was Margaret. I was 70 years old, had calloused hands from so much work, and a heart that, even broken, still beat strong. And that conversation at the dinner table? That wasn't an end. It was just the beginning. Do you want to know why Emma's words hurt so much? Because she had no idea who I really was. Nobody did. I had become so invisible, so silent in my sacrifices, that my own daughter believed I had merely survived. Let me tell you the truth. I was 36 when Robert died. 36. Emma was only 13. It was a rainy Tuesday morning, one of those that seems to foreshadow disaster. He left early to make a delivery. We had a small stationery store in the north side of Chicago. Nothing too grand, but it was ours. 2 hours later, I received the call that split my life in half. Accident on the highway. Truck lost its brakes. Robert didn't have a chance. I remember the wake as if it were yesterday. The closed casket, the nauseating smell of white flowers, Emma clinging to my waist, crying so much she soaked my entire black dress. And there I stood, without shedding a tear. Not because I didn't want to cry, but because if I started, I was afraid I'd never stop. Everyone looked at me with that suffocating pity. Poor Margaret, what will she do now? A woman alone with a young daughter, no profession. No profession, as if taking care of a house, a business, a family wasn't a profession. In the first week after the burial, Robert's accountant appeared in my living room with a folder full of papers, debts, suppliers demanding payment, overdue rent on the commercial space. I looked at those numbers, $42,000 in the red, and thought, I can give up now or I can get up. I got up. I took over the stationery store. I learned to negotiate with suppliers, make spreadsheets, wake up at 5 in the morning to organize inventory before Emma woke up for school. My fingers became marked from opening so many notebook boxes, from carrying so many reams of paper. My back ached, but I didn't stop. You know why? Because I looked at Emma in her uniform, having breakfast, and thought, she'll have a better life than mine. She'll study. She'll be someone. And she did. At least I thought she had. When she finished high school, she told me she wanted to study business administration, a private college, a good one. $2,180 per month for 4 years. I did the math in my head. $104,640. It was more than I had in savings, much more. But I said yes, of course I said yes. I worked double. I transformed that small stationery store into a school supplies distributor. I won contracts with schools in the region. I spent sleepless nights making budgets, chasing bids. I turned down invitations to go out, to travel, to live. Because my life was Emma. She graduated beautifully. I was there at graduation, in the last row of the auditorium, in my navy blue dress that I wore on all special occasions. I cried when they called her name. I cried with pride, exhaustion, relief. 2 years later, she came with that sparkle in her eyes. Mom, I need to get an MBA. All the managers at the company have one. If I want to grow, $52,000, 2 years of payments. I didn't think twice. You can do it, daughter. I'll handle it. And I handled it. I always handled it. When she married Marcus, I paid the down payment on the apartment. $150,000 that I had saved over 10 years, saving penny by penny. It was supposed to be my peaceful retirement. It became their nest. Mom, you don't need to do this, Emma said, but her eyes shone. And I hugged my daughter and whispered, I want you to start your life without debts. You deserve it. Her car 3 years ago, $85,000 cash. I sold stocks I had bought, emptied the emergency savings, but seeing her smile when she took the keys was worth every cent. Or I thought it was worth it. Because never, in any of those years, did Emma ask, Mom, what about you? How are you? Don't you want anything for yourself? I became the invisible provider, the bill that pays itself, the financial miracle that nobody questions where it comes from. And when I finally stopped, when I finally said, no, what did she do? She compared me to her mother-in-law, to Victoria, the woman she thought had achieved everything alone. But Victoria's real story? Oh, that I was still going to discover. And when I discovered it, everything made even more sense. But that night, driving back home after that dinner, I didn't know any of that yet. I only knew one thing. I had spent 25 years building castles for my daughter to live in. And she had never noticed that the one holding up the foundations was me, Victoria. Just saying that name, my throat still tightens. Not from anger, at least not at first, but from that bitter feeling of always being one step behind someone who wasn't even running the same race as me. The first time I heard about her was 4 months after Emma started dating Marcus. My daughter came home with that sparkle in her eyes, threw her purse on the couch and said, Mom, I had lunch at Marcus's family's house today. His mother is incredible. Incredible. That word echoed in my head strangely. Not that I was jealous, at least that's what I tried to convince myself, but there was something in Emma's tone, an admiration she had never shown me that way. She has a cosmetics company, you know, Natural Beauty. You must have seen the products in pharmacies. Emma was scrolling through her phone while talking, showing me photos. Look at this chic office, Mom. And she built all this herself after she divorced Marcus's father. Herself. There was that word again. When I met Victoria in person at the engagement party, I understood where all that admiration came from. She entered the hall as if she owned the place, 66 years old, but looked 50. Impeccable blonde hair, clearly from an expensive salon, the kind that charges $200 for a hairdo. Designer clothes, perfume you could smell from afar, one of those imported ones, perfectly manicured nails, discreet but expensive jewelry. Everything about her screamed, I won in life. And me. I was wearing my navy blue dress as always, the same worn leather purse, comfortable shoes because my feet couldn't handle heels anymore after years standing in the distributor. You must be Margaret. Victoria greeted me with 2 quick kisses, that kind of automatic greeting from someone who isn't really seeing you. Emma talks so much about you. How nice to have such a present mother. Present. The word sounded strange, as if she wanted to say something else, but had chosen to be polite. The months passed, the wedding happened, and gradually Victoria began occupying an increasingly larger space in Emma's life. Weekly lunches, shopping trips, weekend getaways to her beach house in Lake Michigan. Mom, Victoria invited me to go with her to a business fair in Milwaukee. Emma would call me excited. She said I can learn a lot about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, as if I weren't an entrepreneur, as if having transformed a bankrupt stationery store into a profitable distributor wasn't entrepreneurship. But I didn't say anything, just smiled and said, That's great, honey. Enjoy it. Things started to change for real when Tyler and Sophie were born. Victoria appeared with expensive gifts, an imported crib costing $5,500, brand-name clothes, educational toys that cost more than my monthly rent. And me? I brought diapers, bought medicine, paid for health insurance, necessary things, but invisible. Nobody takes pictures of diapers to post on Instagram. Lunches at Victoria's house became frequent. Emma always came back impressed. Mom, you should see her wine cellar. She has bottles worth $250 each. Or then, she showed me photos from her last trip to Paris. She stayed in a 5-star hotel with a view of the Eiffel Tower. And in each of those stories, there was an implicit comparison. Victoria traveled to Paris. I barely left Chicago. Victoria had expensive wines. I drank boxed juice. Victoria wore designer clothes. I still mended the same blouses for 5 years. But the worst part wasn't the gifts or the trips. The worst part was the subtle, venomous comments, always with that corner smile. Margaret, you work so much, poor thing. Have you never taken a vacation? Victoria asked once at a family lunch in front of everyone. It's important to take care of yourself, you know? I always say, a woman who doesn't value herself, nobody values. As if I didn't want to value myself, as if I had chosen to work non-stop. Or then, Emma told me you have a distributor. How cute. These little family businesses have so much charm, don't they? So simple. Little business. Simple. Each word was a needle prick, and the worst part was that Emma never defended me. She laughed along, agreed, as if she really believed my life was smaller, less important, less inspiring. Until one day, during a dinner at their house, it had been about 3 years since they were married, Victoria dropped the phrase that should have alerted me. You know, Emma, the greatest inheritance we can leave our children isn't money, it's example. Example of independence, strength, personal achievement. And Emma looked at me. For a second, just a second, I saw something in her eyes. Shame? Disappointment? I don't know. But it hurt because I had given everything to her, literally everything. My time, my money, my dreams, my life. But in her head, influenced by that woman, I hadn't given the main thing, example. What Emma didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that Victoria's entire perfect story was a carefully constructed lie. A beautiful facade on the outside, but hollow inside. And when I discovered the truth, when I discovered it, everything started to make sense. The arrogance, the venomous comments, the constant need to prove herself superior. But at that moment I was still just the invisible mother, overshadowed by the false shine of a woman my daughter idolized. And that shadow would only grow until the day I finally turned on the light and revealed what was really hiding behind it. I woke up on Friday with a clarity I hadn't had in years. You know when you spend so much time in a fog that you don't even notice you're lost anymore? And suddenly, a gust of wind clears everything, and you finally see where you are. That's how it was. I couldn't even sleep properly. I spent the whole night staring at my bedroom ceiling, replaying every word from that dinner. "Unlike you, Mom." Emma's voice echoed in my head like a scratched record. But along with the pain came something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger. Not that explosive anger that makes us scream, but the cold, calculated kind that gives you focus. I got up at 6 in the morning, had my black coffee without sugar, sitting at my little kitchen table where I always made my plans. I took my old laptop, the one Emma kept saying I should replace, and opened online banking. It was time to face the numbers. I started writing everything down in a notebook. Each transfer, each automatic payment, each digital transfer I had made in the last 3 years. My fingers trembled as I typed, not from nervousness, but from indignation. Private school for the kids, $3,900 per month, times 2, $7,800. I had been paying for 5 years. I did the math, $468,000. Family health insurance, $2,650 monthly, 3 years straight, $95,400. Apartment financing that I had given as a gift. There were still 96 payments of $2,150. I had been paying since they bought it. $228,000 already invested. Car, $85,000 cash 3 years ago. Condo fees that I covered just until they got settled. $1,080 per month, 32 months, $34,560. Groceries I helped with when the month was tight. Average of $1,000 almost every month, about $36,000 more. Emma's gym because she needed to take care of her health. $290 monthly, $10,440. Tyler's English classes, $700, $25,200. Sophie's ballet, $510, $18,060. I sat back in my chair and looked at that notebook. The total, $921,000 in 3 years. $921,000 that simply disappeared as if I were a walking ATM. And Emma? Emma didn't even know. "What bills?" she had asked. I picked up my phone and called the bank. I canceled all automatic debits, all transfer authorizations, all scheduled payments. The woman on the other end asked if I was sure, if it wasn't a mistake. "I'm absolutely sure," I replied. My voice came out firm, without room for doubt. Then I went to take a shower. A long one. I let the hot water fall on my tense shoulders, washing not just my body, but years of silent submission. When I got out, I looked at myself in the fogged mirror. Margaret, 70 years old. Gray hair that I always thought was beautiful, but that Emma kept suggesting I dye. Wrinkles around my eyes from so much smiling and crying in secret. Strong, calloused hands. "You're not invisible," I said to my reflection. "You just let them treat you that way." At 10 in the morning, I met Sarah at our usual cafe, Rosa's Place, near the distributor. Sarah had been my friend for 35 years, since before Robert died. She knew every chapter of my life. "By your face, either you won the lottery or made a drastic decision," she said as soon as she saw me stirring her cappuccino. The second option. I sat down and told her everything. The dinner, Emma's phrase, the $921,000, the cancellations. Sarah was silent for a few seconds, then let out that laugh of hers, loud, no beating around the bush. Finally, "I thought you were going to let that girl drain you until you were completely dry." "I was an idiot, Sarah." "No. She held my hand over the table. You were a mother. Mothers do that, give everything to the last drop. But there comes a time when we need to learn that giving everything isn't love. Sometimes it's a disservice. Those words hit me hard. A disservice. That's exactly what it was. I had turned my daughter into someone who didn't know the value of things, who thought everything fell from the sky, who despised her own mother because she never had to fight. And now? Sarah asked. What's the plan? I'm not going to say anything. I took a sip of my bitter coffee. I want to see how long it takes for her to notice the faucet has dried up. I want to see if she'll run to her wonderful mother-in-law. And then, dramatic pause, then we'll see the circus catch fire. Sarah smiled in that conspiratorial way. You're different, Maggie. I am. And it was true. Something had changed inside me. It wasn't malice. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. It was time to show Emma and myself that I wasn't that woman who merely survived. I had built an empire from scratch, raised my daughter alone, financed dreams, colleges, apartments, cars, all while working, sweating, giving up on myself. And now? Now I was simply going to stop and watch the house of cards collapse, because there's one thing Emma still didn't know. Every structure needs a foundation. And when the foundation decides to move, everything falls down. 26 days. I mentally gave 3 weeks for the first overdue bill to arrive, and I would be there watching, not with pleasure, but with the certainty that sometimes the best lesson we can give someone we love is to let them face the consequences of their own choices. 26 days. That's exactly how long it took for the first bomb to explode. I was at the distributor, checking a shipment of notebooks that had arrived from the factory when my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. Emma. My heart gave that involuntary acceleration we feel when it's our child calling, no matter how old they are. I took a deep breath before answering. Mom. Her voice came out strange, somewhat breathless. There's a problem. What kind of problem? I continued noting numbers in my little notebook, pretending a calm I didn't feel. The school called. They said the kids' tuition is overdue. 4 weeks late and there's a fine. I don't understand. Hadn't you set up automatic payment for this? Oh, so she really thought it was automatic, as if money sprouted from the account by itself. I had, I replied, examining a notebook with a defective spine, but I canceled it. Silence on the other end, one of those heavy silences that seems to suck the air from the call. You canceled it. Her voice went up 2 tones. Mom, how do you cancel something like that without warning? The same way you compare me to your mother-in-law without warning. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't regret it. Mom, for God's sake, this is childish. The kids are going to be embarrassed at school. Something inside me twisted. My grandchildren, my little ones. Tyler with that quiet way, always with his head buried in books. Sophie with her colorful drawings, which she always proudly showed me. For a second, I almost gave in. Almost. But then I remembered. I remembered Emma laughing at the table, saying her mother-in-law had achieved everything alone. I remembered the invisible years, the sacrifices nobody saw. Emma, you're 43 years old, college-educated, married, mother of 2 teenagers. My voice came out firm, without room for negotiation. The tuition is $3,900 per child. Don't you and Marcus have $7,800 per month to pay for your own children's school? Mom, you know our budget is tight. Marcus has that car debt that his mother lent him. Wait, his mother lent him money? Victoria, the wonderful woman who achieved everything alone, lent money to her own son. With interest, I bet. And how much is the school, Emma? How much do you think it costs per month? I don't know exactly, but $3,900 per child. $7,800 total. And I've been paying that for 5 years. 5 years, Emma. Did you know that? More silence. I thought it was less. Her voice became small. Like $100 to $800 per child. I almost laughed. Almost. But there was nothing funny about it. My daughter, an adult woman with an MBA, had no idea of the cost of her own children's school. And the health insurance? I continued. $2,650 per month. The apartment financing, $2,850, the condo fees, $1,080, the car you drive, $85,000 cash 3 years ago. Should I continue? Mom. Now she was crying, but they were tears of panic, not repentance. You can't do this. You can't just stop everything all at once. Can't I? I did. I sat in my office chair, that old cracked leather one I refused to replace because it was still comfortable. Now you're going to learn to live with the money you earn, not mine. And what am I going to do? The school already sent a notice. If I don't pay by Friday, the kids will be held in the office. My hand gripped the phone. The image of my grandchildren being humiliated cut through me. But I needed to be strong. For them. For me. You're going to do what every responsible mother does, Emma. You're going to sit with your husband, look at the bills, cut unnecessary expenses, and pay. Or you're going to ask your wonderful mother-in-law for help, the one who achieved everything alone. Victoria won't... She stopped mid-sentence. Interesting. Won't what? Nothing. Forget it. But I didn't forget. There was something there. Something she didn't want to talk about. Emma, how many times have you asked Victoria for money? That's not relevant. It is relevant. How many times? She sighed, defeated. Twice. I borrowed to renovate the kitchen and to replace the refrigerator. And she lent it? She lent it, but charged interest, 6% per month. She said it was for me to learn financial responsibility. 6%. The perfect mother-in-law charged loan shark rates from her own son and daughter-in-law. And you paid? I'm still paying. There are 7 payments of $1,200 left. $1,200 that she still owed to her mother-in-law. And me? I had never charged a cent, never even charged gratitude. Then you already know the way, daughter. Call Victoria. Ask for another loan with interest. Learn that financial responsibility she preaches so much. Mom, please. I have to hang up. A client arrived. There was no client, but I couldn't listen anymore. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I rested my head on the table and breathed deeply, trying to control that whirlwind of emotions. Pain, anger, relief, guilt. The phone vibrated. Message from Emma. Mom, we need to talk in person. It can't be like this. I didn't respond. Later, already at home, Sarah called me. So, has she found out yet? She found out. I told her everything. And are you okay? I looked out the living room window. Outside, the street was full of life. Children playing, cars passing. The world kept spinning, indifferent to everyone's individual dramas. I am, I replied. And for the first time in weeks, it was true. I'm tired, hurt, but I'm okay because I finally stopped carrying a weight that was never mine alone. Because sometimes we love so much that we forget to teach. And teaching for real hurts. It hurts the one who teaches, and it hurts the one who learns. But it was necessary, even if my heart bled with every unanswered call, every ignored message, because Emma needed to fall. Only then would she learn to get up on her own. I didn't expect it to happen so fast, but Sarah has a cousin who works at a fancy restaurant in the downtown area, that bistro, A Taste of Home. And that's where it happened. 2 days after that tense call with Emma, Sarah's cousin Linda sent me a WhatsApp message. Maggie, your daughter is here with that well-dressed blonde you showed me once. Looks serious. My stomach churned. Emma had gone after Victoria, exactly as I imagined she would. Can you hear anything? I typed back, feeling a strange mixture of curiosity and tightness in my chest. I'll try. Their table is near the counter. I stayed glued to my phone for the next 20 minutes until the message came. Long, detailed. Linda had bat ears. I always said that. According to her, Emma arrived nervous, ordered wine, something my daughter only does when desperate. Victoria was impeccable, as always, sunglasses on her head, those perfect nails drumming on the glass of Chardonnay. The conversation started with pleasantries. How were the kids, Marcus's work, those things. Until Emma gathered courage. Victoria, I need to ask you for help. Her voice trembled, according to Linda. Of course, dear. What happened? Victoria smiled, but it was one of those cold smiles from someone who already knows what's coming. It's that my mother cut the financial help she gave us out of nowhere, and now we have several overdue bills. The kids' school, credit cards, Marcus's car financing. Emma was twisting the napkin between her fingers. It's $200 that we need to resolve urgently by Friday. $200. Despair had a number and value. Victoria took a sip of her wine slowly, savoring it. It wasn't the wine she was savoring, it was the moment, the power of having someone begging. I understand. Her voice came out velvety, full of false concern. But Emma, don't you think it's time for you two to learn to live with your own money? You and Marcus are adults. The same words I had said, but coming from her had a different weight. They had contempt. I know. Emma lowered her head. But it's just a phase. As soon as Marcus gets that promotion— Emma! Victoria interrupted, placing her glass on the table with a delicate clink. Your mother spoiled you too much, got you used to bad habits. Now you're paying the price. When Linda sent me that part, I had to sit down. My eyes burned. Me, who spoiled badly. Me, who pampered. But you can help me, can't you? Emma insisted. You always say family is everything. Family is everything, yes. Victoria signaled the waiter, ordering more wine. But truly helping isn't giving money, it's teaching responsibility. Linda told me you could see the disappointment on Emma's face, tears welling up, hands trembling. Victoria, please, it's just $10,200. I promise I'll pay it back. There was a long pause. Victoria took her purse, one of those Prada ones that cost the value of a small car, and pulled out her phone. She spent a few seconds on it that must have seemed like hours to Emma. All right, she sighed, as if making the biggest sacrifice in the world. I'll transfer $2,500 now. It's what I can do at the moment. I have my own commitments. You understand? $2,500. Of the $10,200 Emma needed, the wonderful mother-in-law offered $2,500. That's it? My daughter's voice came out thin. Emma, I have bills too. The company is going through adjustments, investments. Victoria typed on her phone. And there's another thing. I need it back in 30 days. With the usual monthly correction. Emma went pale. The 6%? Exactly. It's market standard, dear. $2,650 in 30 days. Can you manage? $2,500 that became $2,650, while I had given hundreds of thousands without ever charging a penny in interest. I'll have to manage. Emma accepted, defeated. Linda told me they stayed another 20 minutes. Victoria talked about how difficult it had been to build everything alone, how she had learned to be tough with herself, how the world gives nothing for free. Each sentence was a jab at Emma, a veiled comparison with me. Your mother protected you too much from reality. Now you're learning the hard way. Victoria paid the bill, $420 in wine and appetizers with a gold card. But it'll be good for you. Painful, but good. When Linda finished telling me, I sat in the living room armchair for almost an hour just processing. Emma had gone humiliated to her mother-in-law, had heard harsh words about me, and had left there with crumbs, $2,500 with interest. And me. I had given everything without expecting anything, but now there was something intriguing me. Victoria said the company was going through adjustments, investments. What a strange phrase, what a convenient excuse for not lending more money. I called Sarah. Sarah, didn't you say you know Howard? That accountant who works with cosmetics companies? I know him. Why? I need you to find out something for me. About Victoria. Exactly about Victoria, because something didn't add up. A rich woman who flaunted so much about having built an empire alone, but who could only lend $2,500 and still charging loan shark interest. Maggie, what are you planning? Sarah asked, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Nothing much. I looked out the window, watching the orange sunset between the buildings. I just want to know who really is the woman my daughter admires so much. Because I had a suspicion that, if confirmed, would completely change the game. Victoria had built her reputation on a beautiful story of overcoming adversity, but every story has a side B, and I was about to discover what hers was. 2 days later, Sarah called me. "Maggie, you're going to want to sit down before hearing what I discovered." I sat down, and what she told me confirmed all my suspicions and also gave me the perfect weapon for what was to come. "Maggie, Victoria is a fraud." Sarah's voice came so direct through the phone that I almost dropped my coffee cup. A complete fraud. I was on the porch at home, in that rocking chair I bought at a thrift store 20 years ago. The afternoon sun beat warm on my face, but a chill ran down my spine. "Tell me everything slowly." Sarah took a deep breath. I could imagine her on the other end, with that face of someone who discovered the secret of the century. Howard gave me some contacts. I talked to 3 suppliers of natural beauty. "Maggie, that company is drowning in debt." "How much?" $2,100,000, almost $1.25 million. I let the information settle in my head like lead sinking in water. How does a company that sells products in pharmacies get to that point? Mismanagement. Howard explained it to me. Victoria inherited everything ready-made from her father, Mr. Arnold. He was an industrialist, owner of 3 cosmetics factories, died in 2008, left everything to his only daughter. Sarah paused. "She didn't build anything, Maggie. She just managed, and managed badly." Arnold. I remembered vaguely. I had seen his name on an old plaque in Victoria's office once when I went to pick up Emma there. Arnold Industries, founded in 1983. I had never paid attention. "And there's more," Sarah continued. "I discovered she went into expansion mode in 2020, opened 4 physical stores in luxury malls, Northbrook, Oakbrook, Woodfield, Michigan Avenue. Each location cost a fortune in key money, chic renovations, huge inventory, employees, but she didn't sell even half of what was expected. Let me guess. Closed everything. Closed in 2023 with debt upon debt, suppliers not getting paid, banks collecting. She lives in insane financial juggling." I picked up my little notebook, the same one where I had written down my expenses with Emma, and started taking notes. I needed to visualize. "And that chic apartment downtown?" "Rented, $4,600 per month, and she's 3 months behind, according to a friend of Linda's who works at the real estate agency." Rented. The woman who achieved everything alone lived in a rental. The BMW? She still owes $95,000 on it. The designer clothes, the jewelry. Sarah laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. Credit cards maxed out in 12 installments, sometimes 24. Howard managed to confirm she has 5 cards at their limits. That adds up to about $27,000 just in revolving debt. I stared at the horizon, trying to process. The perfect image Victoria sold was pure facade, a house of cards about to collapse. And that beach house in Lake Michigan she shows off so much? It belongs to her ex-husband's sister. She just uses it when her sister-in-law travels, takes photos, posts on Instagram as if it were hers. Each revelation was a piece of the puzzle fitting together. That's why she charged loan shark interest from her own son. That's why she could only lend $2,500 to Emma. That's why all that desperation hidden behind varnish smiles. "Sarah, can you print all this? Documents, screenshots, news articles?" "I'm already sending them to your email." "There's an article in the Business Journal about the closure of her stores. There are lawsuits from suppliers in court. There's everything." I opened my email on my phone. There it was, 20 files. I read each one with the attention of someone assembling a dossier. There was a 2023 article. Natural Beauty closes 4 luxury stores after $1.5 million loss. The photo showed Victoria at the door of one of the units, forced smile, trying to appear confident. The article mentioned adaptation difficulties to the market and post-pandemic crisis, but between the lines, it was clear: mismanagement. Another document was a lawsuit, a supplier demanding $290,000 for unpaid materials dated 10 months ago. There was even a note on a complaint site, an employee complaining about delayed salaries. "Maggie, are you still there?" Sarah's voice brought me back. "I'm here, just processing." "What are you going to do with this?" Good question. What was I going to do? My first reaction was anger. Anger at this woman who had poisoned my daughter's head with lies, who had placed herself on a false pedestal, who had diminished me, called me simple, dependent, weak. But then came something else, something colder, more calculated. I'm going to save it, I replied, for now. For now, yes. Because this information has value, Sarah, and I'm going to use it at the right moment. Are you planning something? I am, but I don't know exactly what yet. I stood up from the chair, went inside the house. I just know it's time for the truth to come out. Emma needs to see who really is the woman she idolizes so much. I spent the rest of the afternoon organizing everything in a folder. I separated by categories: debts, lawsuits, lies, facades. Each document was proof, each photo a contradiction. That night, already lying down, I kept thinking. Victoria had built an entire persona: the successful businesswoman, the strong and independent woman, the perfect mother-in-law. And Emma had bought that illusion completely. But why did I care? Why didn't I let Emma discover it on her own? Because it wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. It was about showing my daughter that the shine she so admired was false. It was about making her understand that I, the mother she despised, had built something real, sweated, honest. I didn't inherit anything, didn't pretend anything, didn't owe anything to anyone. Every brick of my life was placed with my own hands, and that had value, dignity, even if nobody posted photos on Instagram. The next day, Emma sent me a message. Mom, I got half the money for school. Victoria lent it to me. I'm going to pay the rest in installments. The kids won't be embarrassed. I read the message 3 times. Victoria lent it to me, as if it were a huge favor, as if $2,500 with loan shark interest were generosity. I didn't respond, just saved the message, another piece of the puzzle, because soon, very soon, I was going to gather all these pieces, put everything on the table in front of Emma, Marcus, my grandchildren, and Victoria herself. I was going to have a dinner. A dinner where truth would be served as the main course, where masks would fall, where the perfect woman would be exposed for what she really was, and where I, the invisible mother, the one who merely survived, would finally show my true worth. Not with screams, not with scandal, but with facts, numbers, documents, undeniable truths. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't making noise, it's simply turning on the light in a room full of shadows and letting everyone see what was hidden there all along. 73 days, 2 months, and 12 days after that dinner that cracked everything in half, my doorbell rang on a Saturday afternoon. I was in the kitchen preparing a cornbread cake, that recipe from my mother that takes anise. The sweet smell was taking over the whole house. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to answer, already imagining it was Sarah bringing the orchids she had promised me. But when I opened the door, it was Emma. She looked different. Hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, deep dark circles, wrinkled linen blouse, as if she had slept in it. And in her arms, a bouquet of pink roses, the expensive kind from florists, wrapped in crepe paper with a gold bow. "Hi, Mom." Her voice came out small. I stood at the door without making room. My heart tightened. It's automatic. We can't control it when it's our child in front of us, but my head was clear, cold. "Emma, can I come in?" I stepped aside. She entered slowly, looking around as if she were in a strange house. Funny, how many times had she come here in recent years? 6? 7? Always in a hurry, always passing through? "Hi, Mom. I just came to get something. I can't stay. I have an appointment. See you next week." Next week, that never came. "Sit down." I pointed to the couch. "Want coffee?" "No, thanks." She sat on the edge, holding the flowers as if they were a lifeline. "I brought this for you." I took the bouquet. Beautiful, expensive. I calculated mentally. Must have cost about $220, money she didn't have to spend on flowers. I placed the bouquet on the coffee table without looking for a vase. "Do you need something?" I asked, remaining standing. Posture of someone who wouldn't stay long. "Mom, sit down, please." I sat in the armchair across from her, crossed my hands in my lap, and waited. Emma took a deep breath, looked at the floor, the ceiling, her own hands, anywhere except at me. I came to apologize. The words came out fast, rehearsed. For that day, for what I said, I was stressed. I didn't mean to say that. It was thoughtless. You said exactly what you thought. My voice came out harder than I intended. Stressed people speak truths. They don't invent lies. She finally looked at me, eyes watery. It wasn't true, Mom. Victoria keeps talking so much about how she built everything alone, and I ended up believing it, I completed. Ended up comparing. Ended up finding me inferior. No, that wasn't it. It was exactly that, Emma. I leaned forward. You laughed at me in front of your husband, your children, said I didn't achieve anything alone, that I just survived. A tear rolled down her face. She wiped it quickly. I was wrong. I know I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Silence. The wall clock marked the beats. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Why are you here, Emma? I asked tiredly. Really? Why did you come? Because you're my mother and... How much do you owe? She froze, mouth half open, the lie dying in her throat. How much? I repeated without emotion in my voice. Her shoulders fell, defeated. 22,680. 22,680 in 2 months. Break it down for me. Mom, does that matter? It matters. I want to know where you stuck almost $23,000 in 70 days. She fumbled with her purse with trembling hands, took out her phone, opened the banking app, showed me the screen. Red list of debts. School, $7,800, 2 months overdue. Credit cards, $5,870, minimum payment overdue. Car financing, $4,500, 2 payments. Condo fees, $2,160, 2 months. Groceries, $2,440, credit maxed out. And this one here? I pointed to a line. Victoria Hartwell, $2,650. It's the loan she made me with interest. Emma's voice came out embarrassed. Due next week. $20,500 that became $2,650. 6% interest in 1 month. Victoria disappointed you, didn't she? It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Emma didn't respond, but the answer was in her eyes. You went to her, asked for help, humiliated, and she gave you crumbs. My voice was calm, but each word weighed. She charged you interest as if you were an investment, as if family were business. Mom, she said she's having problems with the company, that she's going through adjustments. I know. She uses that excuse with everyone. I stood up, went to the kitchen, turned off the oven. The cake was ready. I let it cool. I came back to the living room. Emma, did you come here to ask for money? She lowered her head. I came to apologize, but I also need... You need money. More tears. Mom, the kids. The school threatened to cancel their enrollment. Tyler is ashamed to go because his friends keep asking why he didn't go on the field trip. Sophie stopped ballet because I couldn't pay. My chest tightened. My grandchildren suffering because of this whole war. But I couldn't give in. Not now. Not like this. And what do you want me to do, Emma? Help us just this once. I promise that... You promise what? That you'll respect me? That you'll value me? That you'll never compare me to anyone again? I sat back down, looking deep into her eyes. Or do you promise until you get the money and then go back to forgetting me? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You only remember I exist when you need something. My voice trembled. For the first time, it trembled. When was the last time you called me just to see how I was, without asking for anything? Silence. Answer, Emma. When? I don't remember. Well, neither do you remember. I stood up again. I needed to move. You're 43 years old, MBA, education, experience. You and Marcus work, earn well, but you don't know how to live within your budget. Life is expensive, Mom. It always has been. And do you think it was easy for me? Widowed at 36, with a 13-year-old daughter, a stationery store drowning in debt? My voice rose. Do you think it was magic for me to have paid for your college, Your MBA, your apartment, your car? I know, Mom, I know. You don't know. You have no idea. I breathed deeply, trying to control myself. Do you know how many nights I stayed awake doing math? How many times I stopped buying clothes for myself to pay your tuition? How many outings, trips, relationships I refused because I needed to work? Mom, don't. I raised my hand. You compared me to Victoria, said she achieved everything alone, unlike me. I walked to the window, my back to her. So achieve it yourself too, just like her. Emma's sob filled the room. Do you want to see me on the street? Is that it? Do you want your grandchildren to suffer? I turned to her. I want you to grow up, to mature, to learn. Learn what? That nothing falls from the sky, Emma. That respect is built. That dignity isn't having a fancy apartment or a new car. It's having character. It's recognizing who's really on your side. She was silent, then stood up, grabbed her purse. So you're not going to help me? Her look hardened, anger mixed with desperation. Fine, I'll solve it myself. Great. She went to the door, stopped with her hand on the doorknob. You've changed, Mom. I haven't changed. I just stopped being invisible. And she left. 3.5 months after that dinner that broke everything in half, I was finally ready. I spent the entire week preparing. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. I took out the beige linen tablecloth from the closet, the one I saved for special occasions and almost never used. I bought fresh ingredients at the market: filet mignon, potatoes, asparagus, ingredients for the chocolate trifle the grandchildren loved. I spent $420 on all that. Money I had, money I earned without borrowing from anyone. On Thursday afternoon, I sent the invitation, an audio message in the family group chat, the one Emma had created years ago, and that lived silent. Good afternoon. I'm inviting the whole family for dinner here at home on Saturday, 7 o'clock. Emma, Marcus, Tyler, Sophie, and Victoria. Yes, your mother-in-law too, Emma. I need to talk to everyone. It's important. I expect you all. Short, direct, no room for refusal. Emma's response took 15 minutes. Mom, why Victoria? You'll understand on the day. Marcus responded. We'll be there, Mrs. Margaret. Victoria took 3 hours to respond. Dear Margaret, what a surprise. Of course I'll go. It'll be a pleasure. Pleasure. She had no idea what was coming. On Saturday, I woke up at 6, took a long shower, washed my hair, applied cream, put on my black tailored pants, the ones I had bought 8 months ago and never worn. White silk blouse, discreet earrings. I looked at myself in the mirror. Margaret, 70 years old. Gray hair loose on my shoulders, expression lines. But my eyes were different. There was strength in them, determination. Today it ends, I said to my reflection. The house was impeccable when they started arriving. First came Tyler and Sophie, brought by Marcus. The kids hugged me tight. I had missed them these months. Tyler was taller. Sophie had cut her hair. Grandma, what a good smell. Sophie stuck her nose in the kitchen. I made trifle, your favorite. Her smile lit up my broken heart. Emma arrived 15 minutes later, alone. She was tense, restless eyes. She greeted everyone with quick kisses and stayed near the couch, as if ready to flee at any moment. And then, at 7:20, the doorbell rang. Victoria entered as if she were on a runway. Royal blue dress, high heels, that expensive perfume that took over the environment. Impeccable hair, perfect makeup, the mask well placed. Margaret, what a cozy house. She looked around with that air of poorly disguised superiority. You keep everything so simple. It's charming. Simple, of course. Thank you for coming, Victoria. Have a seat. I'm going to serve dinner. I prepared the table calmly. Filet mignon with wine sauce, rustic potatoes, grilled asparagus, salad, wine, a good $150 bottle I had bought especially. Everything served on white plates, simple but elegant. Wow, Margaret, you outdid yourself, Marcus complimented, genuinely impressed. Special occasions call for dedication. We ate with pleasant conversation for the first 25 minutes. The kids talking about school that Emma had finally managed to pay with great sacrifice. Marcus talking about work. Victoria monopolizing the conversation with stories about a supposed trip to Napa Valley. I ate slowly, observing, waiting for the right moment. When we finished dessert, the trifle was perfect. I stood up. "Marcus, help me bring that envelope from the bookshelf." He blinked, confused, but obeyed. He came back with a manila envelope, large, heavy. I placed the envelope in the center of the table. All conversation stopped. All eyes turned to it. "What is that, Mom?" Emma asked, her voice already trembling. "It's the truth." I opened the envelope slowly, taking out sheet by sheet. "In recent months, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I went after the truth." I spread the documents on the table. Spreadsheets, statements, receipts. "This here," I lifted the first sheet, "is the complete list of everything I paid for you in the last 25 years, Emma." Her face lost color. College, $104,640. MBA, $52,000. Apartment down payment, $150,000. Car, $85,000. And in the last 3 years, in monthly help, schools, health insurance, condo fees, groceries, I made a dramatic pause. $921,000. Absolute silence. Even the children had stopped moving. Adding everything up, over 2.5 decades, I invested $1,312,640 in you. My voice was firm, without anger, just factual. $1,312,640 that I achieved alone, working, sweating, giving up myself. Emma had tears streaming. Marcus looked at the numbers with his mouth open. "Mom, I didn't know it was so much. You didn't know because you never asked." I picked up another sheet. But the most interesting thing isn't that. The interesting thing is Victoria's story. My mother-in-law straightened her back. The smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the truth, Victoria." I spread more documents. "For years you fed the narrative that you built everything alone, that you raised natural beauty from scratch, that you're a successful businesswoman, that you achieved everything with sweat and work." I picked up an old article. "But the truth is, you inherited everything from your father, Arnold Hartwell. The company, the factories, everything. You never built anything. You just managed." Her face turned to stone. "And managed badly." I put the lawsuit on the table. $100,000 in debt to suppliers. 4 stores closed with a loss of $1.5 million, delayed salaries, overdue bills. Victoria stood up. "You have no right." "I have every right when you use lies to diminish others." I looked at Emma. "When you poison my daughter's head, making her believe I'm worth nothing because I don't show off, because I don't travel to Paris, because I don't wear designer clothes." I placed the last document. "Your rented apartment 3 months behind, your BMW with $95,000 debt, your clothes paid in installments on credit cards that total $127,000 in revolving debt." Each word was a bomb exploding. "You're not rich, Victoria. You're bankrupt, surviving on appearances, charging loan shark interest from your own son to maintain a facade that's crumbling." She went white, then red, hands trembling. "How dare you?" "I dare because it's true." My voice rose for the first time. "You spent years calling me simple, dependent, inferior. You made my daughter ashamed of me, and all based on a lie." I looked at each person at the table. "I didn't inherit anything, didn't pretend anything, don't owe anything. Every penny I have, I earned honestly. Every brick of my life I placed with my own hands. And that, Victoria, is more than you can say about yourself." The silence was deafening. Victoria grabbed her purse, hands shaking so much she could barely hold it. "I'm not staying here listening to this. You can go." I made way. She left, slammed the door hard, and I sat back down, looked at Emma. "Now you know who really achieved everything alone." After Victoria left, the silence in the room weighed like lead. Tyler and Sophie looked at me with wide eyes, trying to process everything they had just heard. Marcus was pale, hands resting on the table, staring at the scattered documents as if they were evidence of a crime. And Emma, my daughter, was falling apart in her chair, sobbing quietly, hands covering her face. "Grandma." Sophie was the first to break the silence, her thin voice trembling. "Did you always pay for everything for us?" I looked at my granddaughter, 12 years old, brown eyes full of confusion. "Yes, my love. I helped. But why didn't we even visit you properly?" Tears started rolling down her little face. That broke me. I knelt in front of her, held her little hands. "Because I love you, and because sometimes we give without expecting anything in return. But there's a difference between giving with love and being treated as invisible." Tyler, older, quieter, finally spoke, his voice deepening, almost a man's. "Grandma Victoria lied to everyone." Marcus answered before me, his voice heavy with shame. "Yes, son, she lied." He looked at me, eyes watery. "Mrs. Margaret, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know my mother was in that situation. She always seemed so perfect," I completed without malice. I sat back in my chair. "Appearances deceive, Marcus. Your mother built such a solid image that even you didn't notice the cracks. I'm sorry." He lowered his head. "For the way she treated you, for the things she said. I should have defended you, but I believed too. You don't need to apologize for her actions. I served coffee for everyone, the ritual calming me. Each person is responsible for their own acts." Emma finally lifted her face, eyes swollen, makeup all smeared. She looked like she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "Mom!" Her voice came out broken. 1/3/12, $640. "Yes. I never stopped to think, never asked where the money came from, just accepted it." More tears. How could I be so selfish, so blind? I took a deep breath. That was the moment I had mentally rehearsed hundreds of times. I could choose to destroy her, throw more salt in the wound, make her feel all the pain I had felt. But that's not what I wanted. It never was. Because I got you used to it badly, Emma. My voice came out tired but not cruel. I protected you from everything, gave you everything, and in the process taught you that you didn't need to fight for anything, that things simply happened. No, it's my fault, only mine. She stood up, came to me, knelt in front of me like she did as a child. "Mom, I was terrible to you. I said horrible things. I compared you, diminished you, treated you like you were worthless, and you gave everything for me." I held her face in my hands. "And you're my daughter. I would do it all again, but not the same way." "What do you mean?" "I don't want your money back, Emma. I never wanted it." I made her look into my eyes. "But I want one thing. I want you to grow up, to mature, to learn to live with the money you and Marcus earn, not mine." "We'll learn, Mrs. Margaret." Marcus approached too. "I promise. We'll cut expenses, reorganize finances, live within our means. And there's another thing." I stood up, went to the kitchen, brought another sheet. "This here is a work contract. I want you working with me at the distributor." Emma took the paper, read. $5,800 per month. Management. "Yes, you have an MBA, experience, capacity. It's time to use all that to build something real, not to keep depending on anyone." I crossed my arms. "You're going to learn how the business works, how I transformed that broken stationery store into a distributor that does well. You'll sweat, get tired, understand firsthand what it means to achieve something alone." "Mom, I accept." She didn't even think twice. "When do I start?" "Monday, 7:30 a.m. Marcus smiled for the first time that night. She's never woken up at 7:30 in her life. Well, she'll learn. I looked at my son-in-law. "And you, Marcus, did that promotion you were waiting for come through?" "It did. An extra $1,500 in salary starting next month." "Great. So you'll have almost $13,500 per month together. You can live well with that, not luxuriously, but with dignity. It's just a matter of priorities." Emma nodded, wiping her tears. "We'll manage, I promise. And I'll help you organize your finances." I picked up my little notebook, the one I had used for years. "We'll sit down, Make spreadsheets, cut what's unnecessary. Expensive gym? Cancel. Trade it for walks in the park? Restaurant every week? Over. Learn to cook at home. School way above reality? Find a good one, but more accessible. And the debt? The $22,680 we still owe? Marcus asked. I sighed. I'll help you negotiate. Installment payments without abusive interest, but you'll pay every cent with your own sweat. Thank you, Grandma. Tyler stood up, came to hug me, and soon Sophie was there too, both squeezing me. We love you and we're sorry for everything. My heart, that tired and hurt heart, began to warm up again. We stayed until late talking. I made more coffee. Emma helped me wash the dishes, something she hadn't done in years when she came here. Marcus fixed that wobbly living room chair. The kids showed me their school grades, told me about teachers, about dreams. And slowly, very slowly, the family began to reconnect, not like before, because before was broken, but as something new, more honest, more real. When they left, it was past 11. Emma was the last to leave. She stopped at the door, looked at me with those eyes I had known since she was a baby. Mom, you gave me the biggest lesson of my life today. Which one? That dignity can't be bought, it's built. She hugged me tight. And that the strongest woman I know has always been right in front of me. I was just looking in the wrong place. After the door closed, I sat on the couch. The house was silent again, but it was a different silence. It wasn't empty, it was peace. I looked at the documents still scattered on the table, those numbers that told my story. A story of sacrifice, yes, but also of strength, resilience, true love. The kind that gives without expecting, but also knows when to stop. I picked up my phone. Sarah had sent a message. So how did it go? I smiled, typing the response. It ended and began. Because that's what it was, an end and a beginning. The end of invisibility, the beginning of respect. 6 months later, I was at the distributor when Emma came running in, breathless, with a folder in her hand. Mom, I closed the contract with the ABC School Network, $18,000 in supplies. It's the biggest of my life. The pride I felt at that moment was priceless, not because of the money, but because she had achieved it with her own effort, with the knowledge I had passed on. I knew you could do it. She hugged me right there, in the middle of the warehouse, among boxes of notebooks and stacks of paper. And I understood. Sometimes the best inheritance we can leave isn't money. It's example, dignity, teaching that everyone has the capacity to achieve. They just need courage to try. Epilogue. When the foundation moves. 1 year and 8 months after that dinner that changed everything, I woke up on a sunny Saturday with a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't bad, it was different, as if something had settled into place after years of being out of joint. I got up, made my usual black coffee, sat on the porch with my little notebook, that old companion of all battles. But today I didn't open it to do math. I opened it to write. I wrote everything, from the fateful dinner to that moment. Every pain, every decision, every tear, every victory. When I finished, it was 15 pages. My story, raw, true. The gate opened. It was 10 in the morning. Emma entered with a bag of warm bread from the bakery, our Saturday tradition that she had rescued a few months ago. Good morning, Mom. She kissed my forehead like she did as a child. I brought French bread, cornbread, and those donuts you love. You spent too much. $28. It's in the budget. She smiled with genuine pride. Actually, this month we managed to save $950 in savings. $950. It might seem little to some, but for someone who was drowning in almost $23,000 of debt a year ago, it was a fortune. It was proof she had learned. And the debts? Only $2,500 left. We'll pay it off in April. She served coffee, sat with me. Mom, I wanted to say something. My heart tightened by reflex. Say it. Marcus got a new job. Better salary, $11,200. She held my hand. And we decided that when we finish paying the debts, we're going to start paying you back. Not everything, because it would be impossible, but at least part of it. $250 per month is what we can take out without compromising the budget. My eyes burned. Emma, I already told you I don't want... But I want, Mom. I need to. Her voice trembled. Not because of the money, but because I need to show myself that I've grown, that I've learned, that I'm no longer that selfish woman who only received and never gave anything back. I couldn't hold back. The tears came, and she cried with me there on the porch, hugging while the coffee got cold and the warm bread perfumed the air. You don't need to pay me, daughter. You already have. How? By recognizing, changing, growing. That's worth more than any money. Later, Marcus arrived with Tyler and Sophie. The kids were different too. Tyler had gotten a tutoring scholarship at the new school, simpler but excellent, which reduced tuition by 35%. Sophie had returned to ballet, but now in a city social project that cost $60 per month. Grandma, look. Sophie showed me her phone, a photo of her with other girls, all in leotards. We're going to perform at the Civic Theater in July. Will you come? Of course I'll go, my love. Front row. And I, Grandma, placed second in the school's essay contest. Tyler handed me a certificate. I wrote about you. I took the paper with trembling hands. I read silently. My grandmother Margaret taught me that strength isn't never falling. It's getting up as many times as necessary. She lost my grandfather early but didn't give up. She built a business, raised my mother alone, and even when she was disrespected, she didn't lose her dignity. Today, I understand that heroes don't wear capes. They wear aprons, drive delivery trucks, and sometimes have gray hair and calloused hands. My grandmother is my hero. I couldn't finish reading. I hugged my grandson so tight he laughed, a bit embarrassed, but returned the hug. You're crushing me, Grandma. Let me crush a little more. Marcus approached. Seriously, Mrs. Margaret, I also need to tell you something. Tell me, son. I cut relations with my mother. Immediate silence. Even the children stopped looking at their phones. What do you mean? I asked. After that dinner, I tried to talk to her several times. I asked her to admit she lied, that she was wrong, that she needed help. He sighed deeply. But she doesn't change. She continues the same, spending what she doesn't have, pretending a life that doesn't exist, charging me interest. Interest, Mrs. Margaret, from my own mother. And how are you with that? Sad, but relieved. He looked at Emma, then at me. I realized we don't have to accept toxic behavior just because it's family. Real family is respect, real support. It's you who welcomed us even when Emma hurt you. Emma held his hand. We tried to help Victoria. We offered to pay for a psychologist, reorganize her finances, but she refused. She said everything was under control. While she sinks deeper and deeper, Marcus completed. I felt a pang of pity. However much Victoria had hurt me, she was a woman lost in her own lies, trapped in a prison she herself built. And the kids? How did they handle it? Tyler answered, We understood, Grandma. Grandma Victoria wasn't really nice to us. She gave expensive gifts, but never asked how we were. She didn't know our favorite subjects, our friends, our dreams. He shrugged. Gifts don't replace presents. And from those 15-year-old lips came wisdom that many adults don't have. You're growing up too fast. It's because we had a good example, Sophie answered, smiling. We spent the afternoon together, had pasta for lunch. I taught Emma how to make sauce from scratch. We played Monopoly. Sophie won, as always. We talked about everything and nothing, and when they left, already at the end of the afternoon, I stayed at the door waving until the car disappeared around the corner. I went back to the porch, picked up my little notebook again, went to the last page and wrote, They thought I was invisible, but I was the foundation of everything. And when the foundation moves, everything collapses. Not to destroy, but to rebuild, stronger, truer, more dignified. I closed the notebook. Life hadn't become perfect. There were still bills to pay, challenges ahead, scars that still hurt. But there was something new, too. Respect, recognition, true love. Not that love of empty words, but the kind that proves itself in actions. The distributor was growing. Emma had become an excellent saleswoman, Better than I expected. We were already talking about opening a branch. My hair was still gray, my hands calloused, my house simple, but I didn't need anything more because I had something money can't buy: dignity and a family that finally saw my worth. That night, before sleeping, I received a message from Emma. "Mom, thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me even when it hurt. Thank you for being the strongest woman I know. I love you for real." I replied simply, "I love you too, daughter. Always." And I slept in peace. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't never falling. It's getting up, teaching others to get up, and watching with quiet pride as they finally learn to walk alone, with their own legs, with their own strength, with the dignity you taught them. If this story touched your heart, leave your comment telling us where you're watching from. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real stories of overcoming, dignity, and true love. Because we all have a Margaret inside us. We just need the courage to let her show.